Martin Luther King Jr. was a man who dared to dream of a better world. His vision was not just a fleeting thought, but a powerful conviction that drove him throughout his life. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia, in a time when life was hard for African Americans. The city, like much of the country, was deeply segregated, and opportunities for black people were limited. Segregation was the law of the land. Black people were forced to use separate facilities, attend different schools, and live in separate neighborhoods. Black people were treated as second-class citizens. They faced daily discrimination and were often denied basic human rights. But young Martin had a dream. Even as a child, he was aware of the injustices around him and felt a deep desire to change the world. He dreamed of a day when people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This dream became the cornerstone of his life's work. He believed in the power of love to overcome hate. Martin was convinced that love and nonviolence were the keys to achieving social justice and equality. He knew that change was possible if people were willing to fight for it. Martin's determination and unwavering faith inspired many to join the civil rights movement. Martin was a gifted student. He excelled in his studies and showed a natural talent for public speaking and leadership. He went to college at a young age. At just 15, he enrolled at Morehouse College, where he began to hone his skills and deepen his understanding of social issues. He became a minister, just like his father. His role as a preacher allowed him to reach a wider audience and spread his message of hope and equality. He wanted to serve his community and make a difference in the world. Martin's commitment to service was evident in everything he did. Little did he know that he would become one of the most important figures in American history. His legacy continues to inspire generations to fight for justice and equality. In 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man in Montgomery, Alabama. This simple yet courageous act of defiance became a pivotal moment in the fight for civil rights. Rosa Parks, a seamstress and a member of the NAACP, was arrested for her refusal, which ignited a spark that would set the entire nation on a path toward justice and equality. Her act of defiance sparked a boycott of the city's buses by African Americans. This boycott was not just a spontaneous reaction, it was a well-organized and strategic effort led by the black community. They were determined to challenge the systemic racism and segregation that permeated every aspect of their lives. This boycott lasted for over a year. For 381 days, the African American community in Montgomery walked, carpooled, and found alternative means of transportation. Their resilience and unity were remarkable, as they faced harassment, threats, and violence from those who opposed their cause. It was a powerful demonstration of the black community's determination to fight for their rights. The boycott brought together people from all walks of life, united in their quest for justice. Churches, community organizations, and local leaders played crucial roles in sustaining the movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was chosen to lead the boycott. At just 26 years old, he was a young pastor with a passion for social justice. His eloquence and commitment to nonviolence made him the perfect leader for this burgeoning movement. He was young and relatively unknown at the time, but his leadership during the boycott quickly brought him to the forefront of the civil rights movement. His speeches and sermons resonated deeply with those who longed for change, but he quickly emerged as a powerful and charismatic leader. His ability to articulate the pain and aspirations of the black community made him a beacon of hope. People were drawn to his vision of a future where all individuals, regardless of race, could live in dignity and freedom. He inspired people with his message of nonviolent resistance. Drawing from the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, King emphasized that love and peaceful protest were the most effective tools in the struggle against oppression. He taught that love and compassion were the most powerful weapons against injustice. His philosophy of nonviolence not only galvanized the black community, but also garnered sympathy and support from people of all races across the nation. The Montgomery bus boycott was a turning point in the civil rights movement. It demonstrated the power of collective action and the impact of sustained, peaceful protest. The boycott also highlighted the economic power of the black community, as their absence from the buses significantly affected the city's revenue. It showed the world the power of nonviolent protest. The success of the boycott inspired other civil rights campaigns and set the stage for future actions that would challenge segregation and discrimination across the United States. It also made Martin Luther King Jr. a national figure. His leadership and the success of the boycott brought him into the national spotlight, where he continued to advocate for civil rights and social justice. He became a symbol of hope and inspiration for millions of people. His unwavering commitment to nonviolence and equality left an indelible mark on the nation and the world, inspiring future generations to continue the fight for justice. Martin Luther King Jr. knew that the fight for civil rights would be long and difficult. He faced constant threats and violence. He was arrested numerous times, but he never wavered in his commitment to nonviolence. He traveled across the country, speaking out against segregation and discrimination. He organized protests and marches. He met with presidents and world leaders. He put his life on the line every day for the cause of justice and equality. King's courage and conviction inspired millions. He taught people to stand up for what they believed in, no matter the cost. He showed the world the power of love to overcome hate. He proved that change was possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. stood before a crowd of over 250,000 people in Washington, D.C. This historic gathering, known as the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, was a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement. People from all walks of life, races and backgrounds converged on the nation's capital, united by a common goal. They had come from all over the country to demand equal rights for African Americans. Buses, trains and cars brought them from every corner of the United States, each person carrying with them stories of struggle and hope. The signs they held high called for justice, equality, and an end to segregation. It was a day of hope and anticipation. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of purpose and unity. People sang songs of freedom and chanted slogans that echoed through the streets of Washington, D.C. The collective energy was palpable, a testament to the power of peaceful protest. The air was electric with the promise of change. As the crowd gathered around the Lincoln Memorial, there was a shared belief that this day could mark the beginning of a new era in American history. The cheers and applause were not just for the speakers, but for the ideals they represented. King's voice boomed across the National Mall as he delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. His words were a clarion call for justice and equality, resonating deeply with everyone present. He spoke with a conviction that stirred the souls of those who listened, painting a vivid picture of a future where freedom and equality would prevail. He spoke of his dream of a day when his children would live in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His vision was not just for his own children, but for all children, a vision of a world where everyone would be treated with dignity and respect. He spoke of his dream of a day when black children and white children would walk hand in hand. This powerful image of unity and brotherhood captured the hearts of the audience, symbolizing the end of racial divisions and the beginning of a harmonious society. He spoke of his dream of a day when all of God's children would be free at last. This dream was not just a hope, but a call to action, urging everyone to work towards a future where freedom and justice would be a reality for all. His words resonated with the crowd, igniting a fire of hope in their hearts. The tears and cheers of the audience were a testament to the profound impact of his message. As the echoes of his speech faded, the spirit of his dream continued to inspire and drive the movement forward, leaving an indelible mark on the history of the nation. Section 5. The Power of Nonviolent Resistance. Martin Luther King Jr. believed in the power of nonviolent resistance. He knew that violence only begets more violence. He taught that love was the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. He drew inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi, who had used nonviolent resistance to help India gain independence from British rule. King believed that the same principles could be applied in the struggle for civil rights in America. He trained his followers in the techniques of nonviolent protest. He taught them how to remain disciplined and peaceful in the face of provocation. He knew that their moral authority stemmed from their commitment to nonviolence. Section 6. Facing down hatred with love. The civil rights movement faced fierce opposition from those who wanted to maintain the status quo of segregation and discrimination. King and his followers were met with violence, hatred, and bigotry. They were attacked by police dogs and fire hoses. They were beaten and jailed. But through it all, King never wavered in his commitment to nonviolence. He taught his followers to love their enemies, to pray for those who persecuted them. He believed that hate could only be overcome with love. His message of love and forgiveness resonated with people around the world. He showed that it was possible to fight for justice without resorting to violence. He proved that love was the most powerful force for change. Section 7. Selma, a turning point for justice. In 1965, King and other civil rights leaders organized a march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, to demand voting rights for African Americans. The march was met with brutal violence from state troopers and local law enforcement. Images of peaceful protesters being beaten and tear-gassed shocked the nation. The events in Selma, which became known as Bloody Sunday, galvanized support for the civil rights movement. Public outrage over the violence forced President Lyndon B. Johnson to introduce the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed discriminatory voting practices. The Voting Rights Act was a major victory for the civil rights movement. It removed barriers that had prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote. It was a testament to the power of nonviolent protest and the sacrifices made by King and countless others. Section 8. A legacy that continues to inspire. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. His death sent shockwaves around the world. He was only 39 years old, but in his short life, he had changed the course of history. King's legacy continues to inspire people around the world to fight for justice and equality. His message of love, nonviolence, and the power of dreams is as relevant today as it was during his lifetime. He taught us that change is possible if we are willing to fight for it. He showed us that love is the most powerful force in the universe. He inspired us to dream of a better world and to work tirelessly to make that dream a reality. Section 9. The dream lives on. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of a just and equitable society is still being realized today. His work is not finished. We still live in a world where people are judged by the color of their skin, where poverty and inequality persist, and where violence and hatred still rear their ugly heads. But King's legacy reminds us that we must never give up hope. We must continue to fight for justice, to stand up for what is right, and to treat each other with love and compassion. We must never forget the words of Dr. King. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Let us all do our part to bend that arc towards justice, so that one day, King's dream will be fully realized.